only really attempted that one time. I mean, I had a few close calls, like subway platforms. I stepped in front of a bus once, but I got tackled by someone who thought I just wasn't paying attention. New Yorkers will save your life and then they'll curse you out.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors and ideators so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, many of us, most of us, are not very good at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations, and hopefully better conversations with survivors, in large part to help more people in more places hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Now, if you are an attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, please reach out. I'd love to talk with you. hello@suicidenoted.com. You can learn more about this podcast at our website, suicidenoted.com. Explore Spotify, Apple, wherever you are listening to this. All the information is there. And of course, you can always simply reach out to me. I am usually available. Finally, we are talking about suicide here on the Suicide Noted podcast. My guests and I do not hold back, so please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today, I am talking again with Kate. Kate lives in New York, where we actually met a few months ago as part of the national tour, which she helped me produce in New York City, in Hell's Kitchen, in a very cool church, where I spoke with her and David and Julio, all past guests. But for reasons I still cannot explain, I did not record that conversation. Live and learn. Kate still lives in New York, and she is still a suicide attempt survivor. We meet again.
How's Mexico?
A lot of Mexicans. A lot of Mexican people here. A lot of Mexican food. It's fine. Kate, does it really matter where you go? I mean, really? You're 50. I mean, can we just stop? Does it matter? I mean, well, you asked me about how Mexico is. How's New York City?
Really, really cold. We're in this polar vortex thing, and I've lost track. I think 14 people without housing have died on the street.
Tell the audience who, by the way, so this is an update episode, so you can listen to Kate's original episode, whatever the number that is, it's in the episode description. It was, had to be a few years back now. You're doing the same work with the same organization. So what is the organization? What's the work?
It's New Alternatives. We work with homeless LGBT youth and young adults.
I was actually in your space, meaning, and people know by now, there was a national tour. Kate was one of the people who spoke with me on the tour, helped me find the space. In this case, it was her space. And oh, by the way, if you saw it now, it's in a little office, but the space itself, where the event was, it's part of a large church, and beautiful, beautiful church on the west side, Hell's Kitchen. So thank you for that, by the way.
There's almost no church in this church. There's services, but the rest of the time the building is rented out to all kinds of nonprofits.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we talked, and there were two other former guests there, and then some people in the audience. And that was my third event. And you know what's weird? I think that's the only event, and don't ask me why, where I don't have one photo. We were talking, and then I did some one-on-one videos, if you remember.
I do.
I just never remembered to take a fucking photo. What happened, most importantly, was the event itself. You talked. The other guys talked. The audience was involved. They asked some questions. I remember at some point it was a little awkward for you to talk about, and this is very relevant, a little awkward for you to share what you were sharing because somebody there that you know from your work didn't know that part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point he knew. He had found the podcast separately, and it was one day when he was talking to me, he started describing it, and I said, wait a minute, And so I was like, okay, yeah, I know that podcast. Something to be said for it because it does create a sense that, we can speak openly and honestly in a way that, people are afraid to. And so, but it is also delicate.
It is delicate. We found that out. I won't go into detail, but if you recall, there was a woman who came late, probably didn't have a real good sense, as best I did with the description of what it was. And she went on a rant and clearly struggling, loss of a child, said things that I think for some people who are in the space of ideating or past it would be offensive or hurtful at a minimum. And that was a really interesting space for me live in person. How do I handle that? And we wiggled out of it, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, I think your response was compassionate. I am, however, glad she left early because it was definitely not heading in a direction I wanted to stick with. And I mean, I am a suicide loss survivor, so I have some, you know, understanding of that perspective, but I don't have that blaming
Yeah.
kind of perspective. I know people who commit suicide are not doing it to anyone else. They're doing it because they can't hold on.
And you are with your work and perhaps other spaces in your life. You're around a lot of loss, man.
Yeah, actually my whole life I've always been kind of surrounded by death, and it was a couple years ago I was talking to someone who considers herself, or I mean she is a professional death doula. And
Mm.
she said to me, "You're a death worker too." And I had never thought of it like that. But it's true, like, a couple weeks ago, one of my clients was in the hospital and seriously ill, and I'm his healthcare proxy, and I had to make the decision first to make him do not resuscitate, and then I had to be part of the conversation about withdrawing life support. And that's not the first time. So, but also, the AIDS epidemic, I lost I don't know how many people there, and I've lost many of I don't have any living family. So it's just over and over, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then we lose clients because, when you're homeless but I mean, the people who freeze to death on the street are largely seriously mentally ill people who can't mobilize themselves to get out of
Yeah.
the cold. Or
Mobilize, navigate the system, whatever.
every year, there's probably 1 or 2 people who die on the streets in the winter here, but we haven't seen this scale, but we this is not a normal winter for New York. New York, I mean, I can't think of a time when it's been 3 degrees?
Yeah, you're right. It was like, I think there was a nice number of years where it was kind of warmish and now it's not. And I won't say what the temperature is here because you'll be like, go fuck yourself. This conversation's over. Thanks again for everything you do. And particularly the conversations you've had with me, this is the sort of officially the third one. We had the original one. Then we had the update and then we had the tour. And now we're doing this. So you're in rare company here. I have a challenge for you. And that
Mhm.
is, I'm asking everybody on these update episodes, because I have a bunch of questions about sort of what's gone on since. But if somebody hasn't heard your episode and we want them to, or if they don't, to give them some context, I'm asking people to sort of summarize their life up until the moment we talked.
Okay, do we have an hourglass? I mean, I think I've, first started having suicidal thoughts in junior high, which I think, if we probably looked over your interviews, we'd see that's a very common time. I had a rough upbringing, which is also a common theme, and I think, I was in a group home and various things. My mother would leave suicide notes for me on the dining room table. So, it was definitely part of my growing up. I didn't attempt until after she had died, though. I had to have been in my early 20s. I just felt very trapped. I think I just felt like there was no way out of the situation I was in. I had asked my grandfather for permission to sell the house and just basically change my whole life, and he had just said not only said no, but said it very cruelly. And that was just the last straw, and my mother had, opioids left from her cancer, so I just grabbed them.
Your grandfather was stern with you.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I had wanted to sell the house, which was in a very Republican neighborhood and completely inappropriate for me, someone who was going to grad school in the Bronx and living in Bay Ridge, 2 hours from each other. Still in New York City, but 2 hours from each other.
Bay Ridge is in Brooklyn for those of you who are somewhere else in the world. Okay, go on.
Right, and I was getting a lot of harassment because Bay Ridge is a little less conservative now, but still has the only Republican, from New York City, so,
Hmm.
'cause Bay Ridge votes with Staten Island, so, as a queer person, as an activist, it was really the wrong place for me, and I was taking a lot of shit for it from the neighbors, really horrible stuff, like sending police to my door and just attacking my garden and, like, really, really intense. And
Uh-huh.
my grandfather just I had written him a proposal because he was very academic and sent it to him, and he just wrote back and basically said, "I had to deal with stuff when I was young too, suck it up." And I just felt like, "Okay, that's it, I'm stuck, I can't get out of this."
And so there were opioids that you put in your mouth and swallowed.
Yeah. I
Now,
just took whatever was left. Now, I guess, obviously, there wasn't enough left to kill me because I woke up the next day and I felt like, if you go to the aquarium and there are those, I guess they're jellyfish, they're
uh-huh.
translucent and they're swaying.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I felt, like I could barely walk across the room, the whole thing was just swaying.
Now, real quick, we're gonna get into memoir title. I don't remember what we talked about. We're gonna, but if that's the image on the book, I'm nixing it. You do you. It's your choice. But if that swaying jellyfish shows up on the cover of your memoir title, I will be more like a ghost memoir title writer. I don't want to be known. The word isn't cliche, but the image and the idea connected to how you felt is perfect.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to get a good image of a translucent creature in a book anyway.
This is why no one pays me for this work. It's just like there's just some basic things I don't understand. But that's how you were feeling. And of course we know that when you want to die or you want the pain to end and you try and you wake up, still magically life isn't amazing now in Bay Ridge.
Not at all, and I still live in Bay Ridge.
And you still live in Bay Ridge. So you're already giving us breadcrumbs for the update. Did you, in the time since, so when we talked, you were in your late 40s. Up until then, how many attempts in total?
I only really attempted that one time. I mean, I had a few close calls, like subway platforms. I stepped in front of a bus once, but I got tackled by someone who thought I just wasn't paying attention. New Yorkers will save your life and then they'll curse you out. That's just how it.
You either get it or you don't. You either get it
Yeah,
or
they'll pick you up off the ground and then be like, "Bitch, pay attention to where you're going."
how many, if any, hospitalizations? Psych unit type?
Just one, I got trapped in the psych ER overnight, but I
Okay.
managed to get out of there. It's not a good place for me for the usual reasons, but also because I don't wanna wind up in a psych unit with my clients.
Oh, yeah, you have this other thing to consider, right? Yeah, yeah.
Right, and my clients are everywhere drifting around the system. In fact, my current psychiatrist is, she's a trainee, she's a resident, but she's spending it 1 day a week at the torture clinic in Queens. Well, I have a client at the torture clinic, and guess who her psychiatrist is?
By the way, you don't have to give proper nouns here, but what do you mean torture clinic?
So, New York City has 2 clinics that are part of the public hospital system for people who have arrived in the US having been tortured in their country of origin, because
Okay.
torture causes very specific medical conditions that doctors don't know how to handle.
Over the years, I imagine you had some therapists. I imagine you had some medications. I imagine you've tried a bunch of stuff. You're nodding your head. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember and I don't listen to all of the episodes again. I just don't have the time. What I do want to do, because I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to go back and find your episode in a second, and then we can give people the exact episode number, because they will want to go back and listen to the whole thing. But before I do that, when ish and why were you looking for a podcast, or what were you looking for when you stumbled upon Suicide Noted? Any idea? Do you recall?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I go through periods where, you know, the suicidality just gets really intense, and I remember I was getting overwhelmed by it, and it was really loud, and I was like, you know, "What do people do?" Like, is "What do people do?" And so
Right.
that's what I was looking for, like, what have other people done? And that's how I found you guys.
Listen to well, there's no, there's just one. It's
Well,
not.
I know there's you, but then there's all the interviewees,
Oh,
right?
that's true too. You selfish fuck, Sean. Self-centered best. So yes, it's me and this all the. And at that point, I don't know. We're gonna find out in a moment. So I imagine you listened to, well, at least a few.
Yeah.
February 2024. So it's 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm gonna read, because we won't be able to hear it, but I'm gonna read it. Okay. And this is the blurb that I chose from the beginning. I was standing on the 6th platform and I was crying and I was pretty close to the edge. This woman just put her arms around me. She just hugged me. She didn't speak English. I had no idea what she was saying, but she just like hugged me. And then when the train came, she just pulled me into the train. It was like she was sent by the universe or something. Please tell me you said those words.
Except for the 6th platform, right? It's the number 6.
The number 6, which trivia question for my listeners. The number 6 has a color. Message me. Let me know what color that is. Should we let them know if it's primary or secondary to give them a hint? No. Well, that was a nice hug, I suppose.
It was unexpected, certainly.
But some people would immediately think, oh, thank God. However, we know not always the case.
Yeah, I was just startled and I didn't really know what to make of it, but at that point I'd kind of missed the moment, you know.
Yeah, because I think one of the things people misunderstand is when someone wants to die, sometimes they want to die. So when they don't die, that doesn't mean they stop wanting to die. Did you ever listen to the episode? Do you remember?
I think I did before the event.
You've heard yourself on different things before. Your voice, it's not, you're used to it, I imagine.
Yeah, right. I do a ton of press, so
I don't think, though, that you shared it with people. I think this is still kind of secretive for you because I know that from what you shared. Well, you've shared that. You have to be in part because of your work, right?
well, during the event, it was leading up to the event, doing the outreach was kind of like coming out over and over again. I found myself emailing friends saying, "You don't know this about me, and I'm sorry you're finding out like this, but there's an event coming up."
I was like, again, extra thanks, because I wasn't only asking you to speak with me, but I was saying, hey, if you can let people know about it. And then in doing that, you had an admission to make.
Mm-hmm.
Because either way, they were going to find out. Because if you didn't tell them then and they came, they would have been like, oh, Kate's talking about something. I didn't know that about her.
Yeah, that's why I figured it was best to tell them in advance. But also, I mean, I've told a few people who I knew were going through something similar, who I thought it might be helpful for. I think there was one client, I wouldn't normally do that, but this was a client who was very intensely suicidal and very chronically suicidal, and I thought that it might be helpful for her.
Was she there?
No, no.
Because you had a few people that you know came, and I had some nice conversations with them, and even a couple, after the fact, sort of email exchanges. So, yeah. Now my feelings won't be hurt, but how do you ever listen to the podcast?
I do.
You do.
I do. I find it helps me hold on. Like, if I'm really, like, in a bad place, it just helps me hold on.
It's like the same thing as you described New Yorkers. You either get it or you don't.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would be like, wait, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you want to listen to, Brene Brown or something more uplifting? Or it's like, it's not always the solution. That's not always right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, uplifting feels like rubbing the fur the wrong way, you know? It's like, it's a dissonance that doesn't work when you're in a really bad place.
do you recall if after speaking with me, there was anything that you felt, not necessarily a particular moment, but my feelings won't be hurt. Like, do you regret it at all? Do you think it was more good than bad? Was there anything negative that came out of it for you?
I didn't regret it. In fact, I felt lighter. I sometimes have thought of saying to people, you should do this. You might feel lighter. I mean, I also was like, wow, we just went all over the place. I feel like we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. Since then, so it's been 2 years plus. Do you ideate?
Yeah.
Are you a regular ideator?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you in the spectrum of a suicidal, passive or otherwise?
It kind of waxes and wanes. I think of it as kind of like sickle cell anemia. In sickle cell, blood cells are warped. Not enough blood is getting around the body to the extremities. And every now and then there's a crisis where the warped blood cells really cut off part of the body and it causes an incredible amount of pain, right?
Right.
It's like that. Every now and then you have this crisis moment where it's just super intense and you have to just try to hang on.
Particularly with other like autoimmunes is like a flare.
Mhm.
We don't always know why.
I have lupus, so maybe that's why I think of it that way, actually.
You have lupus.
Yeah.
You're good with these like analogies, or like, because you did the thing with the jellyfish, you did the thing with like the fur. Now we've got the sickle cell. This is helpful, especially for like certain kinds of brains. When was the last time, and it could be right now, that you had one of those types of flare-ups? And I don't mean specifically lupus, but just suicidal.
Be 2 weeks on Saturday.
How do you know it so specifically? You remember it that way?
Because things just fell apart. I was already concerned about the cold in my old house with no gas, and we can get through a normal New York winter with space heaters and whatnot. But as it got lower and lower, I was like, "We're gonna be in trouble." And so that was the day that I was finally like, we can't do this, and we've gotta get out of here," you know? And that was really hard because I had to, you can't go anywhere with 7 cats. So I
Mhm.
had to, ask people to take cats, and we just kind of scattered around the city. We're still scattered because the polar vortex is still going on. It just, really felt bad. It was like, if I had done different things with my life, I wouldn't be in this position where, like I could have done many things that would have left me in a better financial situation, but it would mean that this organization would not exist.
Yep.
The thousands of young people we've helped would not have gotten that help.
Yep.
But man, it's been a big sacrifice.
Yeah. Like, is it the job and the cats and whatever what keeps you alive?
I mean, the cats are definitely part of it. I think of it as being like, a helium balloon on a string that's
You're
tied to a child's wrist,
you're doing it again. You keep doing these analogies. You're like the analogy queen. I love it. Go on.
right? So you just float bobbing around up there, but there's just this string holding you on Earth, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I think of each of those commitments, right? Whether it's this cat or this protest I've committed to doing, like, okay, I promised to get arrested this day. My colleagues are counting on me to be there. I know that
Not
sounds weird.
not something most people hear. Go on. Yeah.
So whatever, these commitments are the strings, right? They're the things that are tethering me. I mean, I didn't let go of them, right? They're all coming back to me, but like just having to give up temporary responsibility for the cats was like letting go of a lot of what was holding me in place, you know?
Mhm.
And also having to ask people to bail me out. When you've been the helper your whole life, that's a very, very difficult position to be in.
Oh, yeah. And it's cold as fuck, by the way, while this is happening.
Right. So I'm like trying to ask people if a cat can come here, a cat can go there, etc. And pack up the cats and try to like at least remember to take like my medication and a few socks. And you know what I mean? I'm doing all this and it's 12 degrees and
And Bay Ridge is sort of far out there. So if you don't know New York, so unless they're like in Bay Ridge, like it's a pain in the ass.
yeah, and we're close to the water, so it's
Yep.
windy and like, I'm crying and the tears are like almost frozen on my face. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky because people came through, but it's hard to believe you deserve that. And so we managed to, get everybody packed up and out of the house except for one cat who's the most recent arrival. He doesn't know me that well. He's had, his own stuff that happened before he got to me, and we just could not catch him, and he's still at the house. I went yesterday, he's still alive. I've been going every few days and giving him food and water, and, like, I think he's hunkering down, like, actually, there's a hole that goes into the, like, innards of the building, and I think that's what he's doing,
Yeah.
getting some heat. It's attached to 2 sides, so he's probably getting some heat from those other houses.
Where are you staying?
Well, the first week, one friend said, "Look," and I'm staying with my oldest cat who has cancer because he has to have his meds, right? So my one friend said, "Look, my mother's away. You can go stay in her apartment." And this woman's met me once, like 2 Christmases
Oh.
ago, you know? But her son, I know well, he's a volunteer here, and he was New York One's volunteer of the week, he's one of those guys. He's the one who drove us all over the city to get to the various places we were going, right?
Uh-huh.
So, anyway, we get to his mother's place is in Inwood, and so he drops me and Connor off, and, I open the door and I step inside, and it was like a museum. His mother had traveled
Mm,
the world for 30 years, and there was just every possible place you could put something, but not cluttered, like, curated.
well, it's like wealthy.
Wealthy for sure, but also just really, with an eye for
For this-
beauty, you know?
Well, and also let people know. So I don't know this for sure because if we're starting to include parts of Queens and like the Bronx, this doesn't hold. But Bay Ridge to Inwood is far. If you were, I don't know how to make the connection here, like because I was gonna think walking, biking, public transport, driving this traffic. Like you're not getting from Bay Ridge to Inwood in under I mean, you're lucky if it's 90 minutes, maybe closer to 2 hours.
Closer to 2 hours, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff had driven me and Connor there, but then,
Uh-huh.
and this is the day before New York got hit with this massive snowstorm. So here I am, alone in this, like, mind-boggling apartment. Connor immediately hid.
So real.
I just was like, "I can't," this is just I can't, you know what I mean?
So was that the moment when you came close?
Yeah, I was just like, I cannot hold on anymore, and then I thought, I promised to help occupy the lobby of Trump Tower 1 week from that day, which was this past week, and I was like, "I fucking promised," and so
Okay. Okay.
I'm still here. I mean, it was 2 or 3 days of really white knuckling it, like, where you just have to, like, hold on for dear life.
But did you already thought about how you were gonna do it? Or you came that close?
Yeah, I have a better plan than last time I spoke to you.
It's usually how it works.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
it's, both more effective and easier.
Did you find that on, like, the gray market?
No, it was total accident. Somebody happened to prescribe something that is a central nervous system depressant, so lethal and overdose. And
Legal, but you white knuckled it and did not do that.
I didn't. I also thought to myself, this woman's incredibly generous by letting me and a cat stay in her gorgeous apartment. It would
Uh,
really be pretty lame to kill myself here.
right, right, right. So your life sounds like, and it might sound, it sounds like it's especially right now, but it's a series of these little, but next week I've got to do this, but then the cat needs the operation, but then my friend, it's like, I don't know what the word is. You're the analogy queen, come up with something, but maybe the balloon is the thing. I don't know.
No, it's just you're just pushing the rock a little bit further forward, right? It's like, all right. I mean, sometimes it's not that bad and I'm not just like, totally, but it helps me to have commitments.
Do you ever have stretches, whether that's hours, days, weeks, where suicide does not even enter your brain in any way?
Sometimes, but it's pretty unusual.
Hmm. In the last 2 years, as someone who's been thinking on or about ending their lives on and off for the better part of 30 years, more recently, have your views about suicide or suicidality changed at all?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I never thought that suicide was, I mean, I'm not gonna say not problematic because it's problematic, but I think that I've always thought that it should be a choice that people could have. My own partner committed suicide, and
Hmm.
even though I, obviously missed her terribly, and my whole life changed when she died. I mean, we'd been together for 21 years. And I didn't know how to do anything anymore because I always cooked the things she liked, and my schedule was so that I would, match with her the whole thing. Horrible, but but I also know that she was suffering and that it was her choice to make. And her note just said, "I'm sorry I've let everyone down." And the police took it. They never gave it back.
Without getting into what will be a very slippery slope, just this is a yes no answer. Should physician assisted suicide be more available?
Yes.
Done. We could talk for a while about that.
I, in fact, have a good friend who's the lawyer who's been advocating for physician-assisted suicide to be legalized in New York State, and she just won this year.
And then once we get into the finer points, though, then we start talking. Oh, well, but it's only for people who have a
Right.
diagnosed
I mean,
terminal
there are
illness. It's like,
concerns.
well, that's different than someone who's younger, but they've been struggling for 25 years with depression. Where we draw the line, and then there's all other murk. And I get those points of view too. I'm not all on one side. I have pretty strong feelings about agency.
I mean,
Um,
I've watched a lot of people die, just part of
yeah,
my way my world is. During the AIDS epidemic, assisted suicide definitely happened. It was underground, but certainly gay doctors and people with AIDS were, I'm not gonna get into details, but it was happening.
sure.
There would be last parties.
Those are people who are going to die. And of course,
Definitely going to
we're
die.
all going to die. But if you're a 40-year-old dude who's just has 5 years of anxiety and is in a lot of debt and your wife just left him and you have mild depression, you ain't getting physician suicide assisted anywhere in the world. But someone could make the argument, why can't, if he wants? And then others would say, well, he can kill himself. Well, we know he can kill himself. That's not the point. Now, how is he going to do it? And but you know me.
There have been a couple cases recently because in Europe, there are 1 or 2 countries where mental illness is included in the
Yes,
medical.
Switzerland is for sure one. I
Yeah,
believe. I believe.
I've forgotten it anyway, but yeah, so I mean, there have been a couple controversial cases recently
Mhm.
of young adults with mental illness doing medical assisted suicide, so but n
Mm,
America's not gonna get there anytime soon, so
no, no chance. Yeah, yeah. This the next question's sort of connected, so I'll ask it, but I think we already covered it. Any other like new myths or misconceptions that you want to call bullshit on?
I don't know. I mean, I think I've thought a lot about, is there such a thing as rational suicide, or is there always a component of mental illness? And,
Mhm.
I went to school for clinical psychology, right? So
Oh,
I, graduate school, right? Right, have some understanding of the brain, but I didn't finish it, by the way. I didn't. My
no
dad got.
judgments, no judgments, no
Well, I
judgments.
know, I just don't want people to assume that, they should call the licensing board and tell them they've got, like, a renegade psychologist out there, you know?
No,
Um,
you're just a renegade human, not a renegade psychologist.
right. But I do think there are times when it's a rational choice.
Yeah,
I do.
especially when you're like really old.
Yeah. Or my mother, she was, 56 when she died. She'd been
Mhm.
a writer, had no health insurance. This is pre-Obamacare. She got breast cancer and she ignored it.
That's a way to do it.
Walked in on her, like, I guess, my first year of college, and one breast was just visibly deformed, and she still wouldn't go, and it wasn't until she was, like, collapsing, I was maybe halfway through college, that we got her to the hospital, but of course it was too late, and her death was agonizing, you know what I mean?
And it's and what does it say on the death certificate? Not suicide.
No, it said something like, I was either breast cancer or emphysema, one or the other.
Another example of like these numbers, and I know this is probably in poor taste because you were just talking about your mom, but the
Yeah.
suicide numbers are not going to be accurate. That's a perfect example. What do we call that? And I don't know if there's a name for it, but I remember having a conversation a while ago with a guy who was taking like he was on meds, the kinds of meds he needs to stay alive for like his heart or something like that. He just stopped taking them. Well, you could call it like a slow suicide, but I don't mean that. It's like it's intentional. It's like withholding care, but I don't know if there's a word for it.
I've had clients stop taking their HIV medication and die, and that's always a complicated thing because there are socioeconomic factors that go into that, like, you can sell some of these medications for $800 on the street to somebody who's gonna send them to another country where they're not available. So,
Wow.
and if you have nothing except the $45 a month that welfare gives you, and I say to you, "You're gonna die in 10 years if you
Right.
sell meds."
You can trade some life now for oh, what an interesting
Right, and for my
situation.
mother, it was socioeconomic too. I mean, my mother certainly had mental illness, and she had periods of being suicidal, but she probably would have gotten healthcare if she'd had insurance, but she didn't want to bankrupt the family, and I told her, "Mom," I was in ACT UP. I was like, "Mom, healthcare is a human right. Fuck the bills, whatever, just whatever. Don't pay them. Who cares? They shouldn't be charging."
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's
Right?
your credit shot. Who cares? Your
But
credit
she had
shot.
been raised in Kansas, and
Mm.
she had these values, and to her, that was stealing. I mean, she barely even like, when she was very disabled, she couldn't even stand to use her own food stamps, like, I had to go shopping, you know? Yeah,
Wow.
so she just was too genteel for any of that, and
Mhm.
it killed her, and that's our politics that killed her.
They won't. Some people would never look at it that way because it's always going to be blaming the person who made the choice. But it's like, oh, it's a little more complicated than that, my friend.
Sometimes, like the last Trump administration, when we were fighting to save the Affordable Care Act, which we just lost in a big way. It's really painful to me because the Affordable Care Act, I saw what happens without it. That's
Yes.
what happened to my mother. So the fact that now it's been made completely inaccessible by taking away the subsidies for people.
Hmm.
Anyway, but while we were fighting last time to save it, I used to go into hearings with a manila envelope, but when I opened it up, it was an 11 by 14 picture of my mother, and I would set it on the podium, and I would let them look at her and tell them
Hmm.
a story, look at her as a, however 19-year-old Columbia student in 1969, you know?
Mm,
It's like, "Look, you know, this is what happens." My agency just jumped off the Affordable Care Act, right? We have For a long time, I was the only full-time staff member, so I had an ACA plan that was paid for by the organization, and we just hired another full-time person, and we were like, "You know what? This doesn't make sense anymore. It's cheaper to buy a small group plan on the private market."
mhm.
That makes no sense.
I don't know what your answer to this question was back then, but I typically ask how many people do you have to that you can talk to about feeling suicidal and feel okay about the conversation. I don't know what it was then, but what is it today?
I think it was 3 then, it's maybe 2 now.
Okay.
1 I found out was not. I mean, whatever, people's lives move on, but I had left him a phone message that said, "I'm really having a trouble with the whole staying alive thing," and he never called me back.
That's a way to end that relationship.
This man is a rabbi.
Wow.
I can imagine what happened, you know, like, he's the first transgender rabbi leading a congregation. I mean, there's a lot going on and, you know, still, that's a big one to miss, you know?
Big. Have you found the last couple of years any new ways to cope or get through life, resources, whatever? I know it's a bit of an Oprah question, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I hadn't had a psychiatrist for a long time because my old one, closed his practice, and he used to treat me for free because he was an activist. He was supporting the cause, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and trying to find a psychiatrist with insurance, you know the deal, like, most of them are cash only, at least here in New York City, and the ones that are take insurance are overbooked. So anyway, you know, and I used to talk to my primary care doctor about this stuff, which I'm very lucky I can, and, he lost his own father to suicide, so he has a little bit of an understanding there. Anyway, you know, he'd be like, "We've gotta," you know, I can't mess with your medications like it's I don't know enough," you know? And so finally, his hospital system opened up a new mental health center on the Lower East Side, actually in what used to be an AIDS hospice on Rivington Street. And, you know, they closed Beth Israel. All of the mental health and substance abuse services that used to be there into this building on Rivington Street, but they also have an outpatient clinic. So finally, I could have, like, a psychiatrist that's paid for. I mean, she's a student, but you know, anyway. But, and so I started taking a new medication, it really helped for a while. I mean, that's what you get, right?
Sometimes, yeah. Good transition. I got another type of medication, pink and purple. I'm not telling people who are listening to this what it does because go listen to a new episode from the last 2+ years. You'll know what the pink and purple pill does. What was your answer back then? Do you recall?
Save it.
And what is it today? I mean, just so we're clear, it's February 5th, early evening, 2026.
I'd had it a week. In fact, I think I texted you and said, "Yeah, this would be a good weekend for the pink and purple pill," or something like that, yeah.
But I don't know. So here's what's interesting. You could be thinking save or chuck or save or take. And the reason you would chuck it is only because you know how tempting it is, not because you're so like, absolutely not. But I think for you right now, it is either I'm going to either save it, but you got to remember there's no expiration date. But when I say take it, if you say take it, that means you're within before this conversation is over. Like it's happening now. Otherwise, the answer is save.
Well, I can't take it in my office. But, yeah, and I mean, I the thing is I would save it because for a long time, I felt like this is how I die.
You're
M
going to be at suicide.
Yeah.
You're going to die of suicide.
Yeah, just I mean, maybe it could be a long time, could be a short time, but it just feels to me like this is how I die, even though I've had all these crazy medical things and everything, but I think of it, and so I would save it because clearly gonna need it at some point.
You're telling me I didn't ask you or suggest a memoir title?
No, we that was a long interview and we were all over the place, so I don't think we got to it.
All right, so I don't have any clear, like, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, I think I have a memoir title. I don't know if you're up for. With you, I don't know. There are so many options, but it is worth asking. What would you name it?
I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I have a blog, right? But it's just called Observations of an Activist, so that's not very, exciting at all. Observations of an Activist, dot blogspot.com.
Observations of an activist.blogspot.com. If you're not good at spelling, it's a long one. But you do
Yeah,
post somewhat regularly on some nice long form written content.
I
Uh,
do. I mean, I wrote a piece about the tour. So, I mean, it is interesting because, alright, I started blog. I had one years ago about my dad's dementia, and people used to say to me, "I know your blog's about dementia, but it's so funny," which was but dementia can be very funny when it's not heartbreaking. Anyway, or sometimes both at once. But,
How do we Yes, I've been always looking for like when I'm talking with people, there are humorous moments, so there will be laughter. I think that's one of the things that makes me good at this. But I've been searching for how to find the sort of satire in suicide, and I can't find it.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
I would love to do a stand-up bit, but I can't. I just can't figure out a way to do it.
with dementia, it was stuff like the way I realized the dad needed someone full time was that I showed up and he said to me, "I drank the lemon sauce." And I said, "What lemon sauce was that?" And he said, "Oh, it was near the stove." And I said, "Dad, that was the dish soap." And he said, "Are bubbles coming out my belly button?" And so it was just a very funny moment in the middle of a
Right,
really
right,
tragic
right, right,
moment.
right, right.
And it turns out, by the way, don't go trying to kill yourself by drinking dish soap because they make it pretty non-toxic. Because guess what? It goes on your dishes, you know?
Our official update episode PSA: don't try to with dish soap.
Dish soap's not gonna do it. This blog I started because my friend who is a professor and an activist and an author and all this stuff, right? He kept saying to me, "Kate, you gotta write a book. You gotta write a book." Now, I'm the child of multiple authors, right? My birth father was a best-selling author, biographer. Anyway, whatever, I can't. I don't have time. So I said, "Look, I can't write a book. I can write you, like, 3 paragraphs here and there, like, on the subway." And so that's
Uh,
why I started this blog. But as
okay.
I got deeper into the blog, I started seeing themes, and 2 of the big themes were death and suicide. Even
Mm,
though a lot of what I had thought I would be writing mostly about activism and, getting dragged out of the Capitol Rotunda and locked up and whatnot, but there's some of that in there too.
sure. Fun conversations on suicide with Kate. Long memoir title, and it's not. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Kate and I talk death. All right, we talked 2+ years ago. Even though I saw you a few months ago, we talk in 2 years. Let's hope it's a little warmer. Winter of 2028 in New York City. What, if anything, is different about your life?
Well, I think that this past couple weeks has and I'm still not back home, I'm at a different friend's house, luckily he's in the Philippines till the end of the month, so
Lucky him.
yeah, yeah, and lucky me. I mean, most people or many people cannot just be like, "Hey, I need a place to go," and have people appear, you know?
Sure.
Or for that matter, the people couldn't take me, took cats, and the people couldn't do either, sent me money, and
Like, I'm not a backpatter. I'm really bad with validation. I am, but like, you earned it. And sometimes that's what I have to accept too, because I'm a broke ass motherfucker and we do different work. And you're more like hands on the street saving. This is really different work. But sometimes people have to remind me, like, Sean, you've worked really hard. You've done some good work. Like, take it. You need it and it's okay. And I'm like, nah, fuck you. But it's like, dude, you earned it. And you totally earned it. Like,
you can be the grandfather of my work because your podcast helps me hold on sometimes and not
hey,
allow me to do the work.
but I mean, like, you earned it. Like, you know what I'm saying, though? Like, you do need to hear it from other people, maybe even from someone you don't know that well. Like, you bust your ass. It is okay that someone lets you stay at their fucking place for a week. My God. It just reminds me what a warped culture we have where people feel bad. Like, that should be the norm. Like, you just help people and not have to feel bad about it. And it's not a Kate problem. We kind of make people feel bad about, like, taking gifts.
I'm thinking that this experience has shown me that, I've made a lot of decisions over the years to put other people's well-being ahead of my own, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I had some money from my grandfather, but I decided I was gonna use it to keep dad in his apartment for the last years of his life. He
Yeah.
was afraid. He used to say, the place," he didn't wanna go anywhere,
Mm-mm.
and I used some of that money to live on during the first year of starting this organization because we had no money to pay anybody. I've made decisions like that my whole goddamn life, and clearly, this is sort of where it's gotten me into this disaster. And if it was just me, maybe even I wouldn't be motivated to really deal with it, but, I mean, one of the most important things to me is the cats and being able to rescue them and provide for them, and the fact that I couldn't do that. I mean, people have said to me, "But Kate, you made sure the cats got to safety, like, you made sure they had places before you figured out where you were going." But it's still not the same, and so, like, maybe by 2 years, I'll have, managed to improve something. You know?
Memoir title, not this will not be it. Observations of a suicidal cat loving. It's not a memoir title, but it's a description. Do you will you listen to this update episode? It'll be out in like a month.
Maybe. I might by accident just because I normally just listen to whatever you put up.
Will I've been putting up emojis next to update episodes. I have chosen one for you already. Will you be offended if it is the Statue of Liberty?
No. In fact, I have a great Statue of Liberty story. Years and years ago, bunch of activists dressed up like tourists, right, with the "I love New York" balloons. Well, if you stand in front of a security camera with a balloon, guess what happens?
What happens?
They can't see anything because the balloon is blocking the camera.
Naturally, how did I not think
Right,
of
right.
this?
So, this is very handy if you happen to wanna run up the statue and maybe put a gag over the mouth because abortion has been gagged.
Like,
Yeah,
if you were gonna do that,
you're
if
gonna do something like that.
right.
Right, right. So,
Are there questions you think for these update episodes in particular you would like me to ask, whether to you and others that you think would be important or relevant or something I'm missing?
like, in the initial episode, people are whatever time period they are away from their last attempt, and of
Hmm.
course, that varies wildly, but if, after 2 years looking back, do you view that last attempt or the attempt you discussed in the episode differently?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm actually writing this down. That's in line with your views on suicide or suicidality, but that is a more specific or personal way of asking it. So let me ask you that question about your attempt, even though it's been quite a while.
I mean, I guess at the time it felt pretty impulsive, like, you know, but in retrospect, after a few more years, I can see that it was really building for a long time and it wasn't just a moment where you snap and grab the pills.
It rarely is. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's 7:30 there. Are you gonna go home soon?
I can't go home, but I'll go back to my friend's apartment.
You're not going down to Bay Ridge, you're going up to Inwood.
No, no, I was only in Inwood for a week, then she came back, and then Connor and I moved to my other friend's apartment, which is on Ocean Parkway. So we're back in Brooklyn, but not the same part.
Back in Brooklyn.
And, poor Connor he was born in my house, and he's so freaked out, he's been hiding this whole time. So I just feel really bad feel like I did this to him even though, that's arguable. I know that's arguable. Well, I'm going back to Ocean Parkway, that's where I'm going, and then wait it all out.
Yeah.
I mean, we think that the polar vortex is gonna break on Wednesday, but this is the longest I've been away from my home. Like, when I was in high school and college, I represented ACT UP at some of the international AIDS conferences, which were at that time 10 days, and one was in Berlin and one was in Amsterdam. Anyway, so I used to travel for ACT UP speaking and whatnot, but, this is even longer than that, and that was
Yeah.
many years ago. So these days, I go away for 4 days a year.
They're all out of sorts.
Yeah, the having your routines disrupted and just being like, you don't know where anything is, and,
Mhm.
and I realized that I packed Connor's meds, his treats, his everything. I didn't pack any human socks, you know?
Can the word socks be in the memoir title, please?
Well, I
I
know.
just feel like the word socks. We don't have to decide on it now, but I just I've never had anybody have the word socks in their memoir title, I don't think. So that'd be well, thank you so much for talking with me. Is there anything else you wanna put forth to me and my and the gazillions. We've passed Joe Rogan. We're the biggest podcast in the world now.
I just think also that there is a shift going on sort of in my friends and I who kind of have a attunement to people's
Mhm.
vibes or whatever. It's like, I think of it's like there's a disturbance in the force, you know what I mean? Like, people are really roiling right now, and, like, a lot
Mhm.
of people are very afraid and very my migrant clients are terrified, my trans clients are horrified. I have
Mhm.
people saying to me, "Can you help me get a passport in case they start putting trans people in camps?" And so I think we are already seeing an increase in mental health problems and in people thinking about and attempting suicide.
Yeah, I mean, they go hand in hand
Yeah,
typically, especially when you're talking about mental health problems and immediate survival crisis and/or I'm going to be tortured or hurt. Like,
yeah,
you
I
put
mean
that together, you're going to find people who try to end their lives. And more times than not, I don't have data, but I absolutely know this is true. They're going to do it in ways that are really dangerous, that rarely work, that cause a lot of often permanent harm. Like that's what you're looking at. You just
for
don't
sure.
hear about it.
I mean, the Trump Tower action, now Rise and Resist has occupied the lobby of Trump Tower twice. The second time I actually didn't make it despite having held on for that because I had to fucking relocate again. But what they did was we have these signs that are photos of people who've been killed by ICE or died in ICE custody, photos and their names. They're big. And so we went into Trump Tower and held those up. But some of those are people who committed suicide in ICE detention. And people don't get that. You hear about the person who's shot on the street or whatever, those folks. But the people who commit suicide in the ICE detention facilities are invisible.
Dude, I don't need this to be true. My podcast is fine. I have plenty of people that want to talk. My metrics are, I don't need I'm good. I don't want to be broke, but I'm good. But I am telling you, there are so many fucking people that have nowhere to talk about it truly safely. I don't think people outside of maybe the people that hear this podcast and a percentage of others, they either don't get it or just don't believe me. They don't, Kate.
I
Like overreacting or losing it or crazy. I'm like, think what you want, but I'm preaching to the choir and you've been on the ground doing the work literally much, much harder and much longer than me. So like,
I mean, on the subway, sometimes I look around and I think, how many of these people are thinking about suicide?
I think about this all the time. Not all the time, like every day, all moments, but like just to be aware that there are people
All over.
all over, and it's not necessarily only the person who's in the fetal position in bed all day, who may or may not be suicidal.
People keep going until they can't, right? So people get up and they put on their pants and they do whatever it is they're supposed to be doing, and they look to the rest of the world like they're just regular people, but then at a certain point
Yep. Maybe not a memoir title, but maybe a TEDx talk. People keep going till they can't. I hope our paths cross again soon. Got some really ideas brewing for the possible documentary. We'll talk. Not that you have huge amounts of disposable free time, but
I think there's definitely room for these stories to be told. And I just think there's a lot of ways that the message could not everyone is verbal.
right.
Some people need to see things to get them.
One word, and you're not gonna like it. Money.
Well, yes, of course, and we've talked about fundraising before, so yeah, I know.
Damn, Kate. It's never gonna be a short conversation with Kate. Socks, cats, polar vortex. I'm just let me do it. It will eventually be distilled, but that time is not now. All right, I gotta go get some dinner, Kate. It's been great catching up with you, man. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your honesty.
Completely shredded this Kleenex, look at this.
Crybaby.
All over the place.
Another gift I have. I make crybabies cry. You're just a real human being, so I appreciate that. And
This is a rough spot. Have a good dinner. Since you're in Mexico, you should be able to find some,
I should be able to find some Mexican food, probably. Right?
hopefully.
Otherwise, I am really clueless. All right, Kate. I'll talk to you soon, man. Take care. Bye. As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. Special thanks to Kate in New York City. Thanks, Kate, for speaking with me again, and your support on the tour. If you are a suicide attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. Check out our polls on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple if you think we've earned it, please. It helps so much. And finally, if you'd like to learn more about the podcast, check out suicidenoted.com or explore Spotify and Apple podcast descriptions and episode descriptions. There is a lot of information there. And I'm around if you want to talk. And that is all for this week's episode. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I'll talk to you soon.